What is the deepest internet rabbit hole you've ever fallen into? Once I spent 6 hours researching how people accidentally join cults, and by the end I was like, yeah, I get how it happens. During the very start of COVID, I got deep into interactions with the Love Has Won cult. Was never going to join or anything, was just watching their streams to get an idea of the cult mindset. Anyway, one morning I woke up and turned the news on, and they'd mummified their leader. That was a fun one. About 8 years ago, I read about how Chinese immigrants started and transformed the way Americans ate. These were essentially the first fast food establishments during the building of the first transcontinental railroad. It turned into such an interest that I've almost perfected the techniques, cookware, and the ingredients used to make the most popular Chinese takeout items. I was giving a speech at work and sat down on a chair that collapsed. It really embarrassed me. I spent the next month on the internet researching the company that made the chair to let them know about their faulty chairs. Long story short, it consumed my life. Man, when I was a teenager, I got so into research chemicals, but without any real access to them, aside from clonazepam and dextromethorphan, until university. I would stay up all night reading about stimulants, psychedelics, opioids, benzos, dissociatives, and so on, and because I didn't have access, I just imagined what it was like to be on them. Really got it into my head that using them would make me a better person. Only years later, and after I finally was able to get my hands on a variety of them, did I realize they were just an escape, a sort of performative way to be cool and above others. Yeah, right. It did teach me I was good at reading and summarizing research, though, and I am now a psychologist and CBT therapist. Go figure. A few years ago, I ended up somehow on a Wikipedia list of all U.S. federal prisons. That led to me going to every individual site for each prison and seeing which famous people had ever been there. Then, reading up on each individual. It was a huge rabbit hole, but very interesting. Note, there are a lot of U.S. federal prisons, and each one has numerous people listed. It took a while. Cicada 3301. Got interested in 2020, joined the community, and 2 years later I was giving a talk at the world's largest hacking conference about it. I tell people Cicada is different than most rabbit holes, because you end up finding a wonderland where you can engage with so many different aspects and elements. I once spent a long weekend looking into the theory online that rock musician Andrew WK was an industry plant, that he was really a character of an energetic rock star performed by an actor, and that he had been replaced. It didn't help that, although he almost always wore his uniform of filthy white shirt and pants, his appearance has varied over the years based on hair and beard length, and at one time years before, I had seen pictures of what looked to be an Andrew WK cosplayer at an event and was confused. I've never owned one of his albums, and have only heard a few of his singles. Deaths on Mount Everest. It started as a curious click on a random article, then I got pulled into all the documentaries and articles. It's horrifying. I found a Twitter post of someone asking for leads on the author of an abandoned book. It related to a town in Ireland, so I tried to find a local news outlet to possibly contact. I got distracted by the obituaries on their website and came across one that had a video link that was about to start streaming. And that's how I ended up watching a random Irish grandma's funeral service for an hour. I was hungover, and a really old film was on network TV, like the Golden Era, black and white. In that film was an eye-catching actress named Loretta Young. The story about her and her infidelity incident, particularly its after effect with Clark Gable, is absolutely wild. All because I was too lazy to reach for my remote and change the channel. I don't remember how I stumbled across it, but I got into those snake egg hatching videos by Snake Discovery, and it led me down the rabbit hole of reptile keeping. I had never touched a snake in my life. I've had a part-time side job at the zoo doing reptile presentations for 5 years now because of it, LOL. Celebrity number 6. There was this fabric printed in the early 2000s with a bunch of celebrities, faces on it with kind of a pop art style edit. All of the celebrities were matched with the actual photo used for the edit, except one, celebrity number 6. I'd look through old magazines whenever I came across them, trying to find the face of the lady on the fabric. It took the subreddit r/celebrity number 6 a few years, but finally someone figured out who she was, a foreign model, Letitia Sarda, and they contacted her to confirm. Alec Baldwin's wife Hilaria lied for a decade about being a half-Spanish immigrant. When it came out she was born and raised in Boston, she said people just misunderstood. There are lots of videos on YouTube and the snark sub dedicated to her grift showing both her and Alec pushing her con. It's crazy. Probably the Alyssa Lam case. So many details, so many things that seem borderline impossible. That initial elevator video is just so compelling. Sadly, after all the research, I'm pretty convinced the answer is that she simply had a mental break and took her own life. Finding the CIA's archives of MKULTRA and related 60s and 70s weird experiments program documents was probably the deepest I've ever gotten. There are thousands upon thousands of pages of just the craziest things ever, and it's official. I came across this legend about the Green Children of Woolpit and started looking into how they supposedly came to New England in the 12th century, speaking an unknown language from a mysterious hidden village. Crazy stuff. Godzilla. The history, philosophy, production methods, scripts, actors, and so on. I've been in this hole literally as long as I can remember, and I don't see myself getting out anytime soon. The only movies and shows I haven't seen are the ones that were never made, but I found the unfinished scripts and read them online. When you know about Godzilla vs. Satan, you're living in this hole now. I once ended up putting together the entire lore of Doctor Who because of a Tumblr post of 10th Doctor and Rose Fanart. Edit. Thank you to everyone for the upvotes. I spent quite a long time last night looking for that original picture, and for the life of me I can't find it. It's lost to time. I found on an Odd Jobs website a request for someone who would be willing to submit fake responses for a survey. I collected a few clues to work out that the survey in question was likely a survey to change zoning laws for a park, and that the person who was requesting the changes was a development company. Sent an email to the surveyor and the group working to stop the park from being destroyed. Pretty messed up. I got deep into reading about the past lives people claim they had. That's why I know it's completely wrong when someone trots out the "you can tell people are lying about past lives because everyone thinks they were rich and famous. No one claims to have been a dirt farmer" argument. Because I read a lot of stories, and almost all of them were about lives no one would envy. I once spent 3 days reading about abandoned Disney projects, like the whole history of Discovery Island and River Country. By the end, I felt like a ghost employee from 1979. I was on TikTok a few months ago and I came across an Astroworld video. I never knew exactly what happened, but I knew the basics. Anyway, as I saw that video, in the search it said something about another video. I clicked it, obviously. I've set an app limit on my phone for most of my social media apps, because if I didn't, I'd be on them all day. I was so deep, my phone closed the app because I spent too much time on TikTok. Turns out I was in that rabbit hole for 5 whole hours. Rest in peace to all the victims involved. It's actually disturbing and devastating. K-pop sasaengs. Holy crap, people. When they get super obsessed with their idols, they're super crazy and like a cult. The amount of stuff I found made me feel like I touched the dark web, and I've never even been on the dark web. There are a lot of adult sasaengs, but a lot of them are kids. It's a scary rabbit hole. Sovereign citizens. It all started with either seeing or taking a picture of a strange license plate, and next thing you know I'm learning all about this crazy movement that I had never heard about. I've forgotten most of it, but I remember there was a big thing about how if the American flag has the yellow fringes on it, it's not a real flag and it represents maritime law, and that wasn't even the craziest part. Do not go and read any article, any at all, on TV Tropes, tvtropes.org. I have spent hours clicking, open a new tab, and only stopped because I got hungry. Went down a 2-hour rabbit hole on Yankee Doodle Dandy, the movie by George M. Cohan. The reason for this being, I heard vaguely about James Cagney from an elective class, Music of Broadway, during our lesson on George M. Cohan. And being a Cuphead fan, I wanted to see if he was the inspiration for Cagney Carnation. Then I discovered the name Joan Leslie under his. As a Gumball fan, I remembered Cagney as a flower, and so is Leslie. And then I proceeded to spend way too much time looking through every name on the Wikipedia page for more names of plant characters. Second place goes to my rabbit holes, where I spent so much time researching chromosomal abnormalities, because genetics is a big interest of mine. A woman once got into an Uber with me, we chatted, and when she left, she told me her first name and her place of work and said, "Come find me." Looking her up felt like stalking her since she didn't have much of an internet presence. I found out why pretty soon. Turns out she was a Columbine shooting survivor. Her name was in the Shooter's Journal. I even ran across a cached copy of a deleted Tumblr blog that had been tracking all of the girls in that journal. Were they married? How many kids? Where they lived? Truly some of the creepiest stuff I've seen on the internet about real people. Worst part is, I could never tell her I knew all of this. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. I had never even heard of the word tsunami. I searched everything I could about tsunamis, the huge number of deaths, and the path of overwhelming destruction. I still regularly search for new information or documentaries. I do not know if it's the deepest ever, but during COVID, I was bored like everyone else and joined a Facebook group called Investigation Connection. Someone posted that they were adopted and looking for their siblings. In another life, I'd be a private investigator, and COVID gave me plenty of time for internet sleuthing. I stayed up all night, but I found a girl's entire family. She had tried her entire life to find them. After COVID, she got to meet them and tagged me in it. Pretty cool. I read an article 8 years ago on quantum mechanics, which led me to QED, which led me to learning about Dr. Feynman's safe-cracking ability. Not to brag, but I can now solve both time-dependent and time-independent Schrödinger equations and break into pretty much anything. Dissociative identity disorder. I followed this girl who claimed to have it and was amazed by the human mind, how it could shelter you from childhood trauma. Turned out she was faking it though. I guess it was too good to be true. The kids can imagine an entire community when there is a lack of that in their real lives. I tripped into this weird collection of stories about strange staircases in the woods that you should never ever touch or step on. Weird sightings and strange deaths in the wilderness. It was captivating. I haven't seen it in so long. I wanted to learn about automobile suspension. Next thing you know, it's 4 a.m., and I am an expert on suspension geometry, spring rates, spindles, valving, dampening, COI levers, control arms, camber plates, toe, and so on. It was an incredibly fascinating rabbit hole. Holy crap, am I ever the queen of rabbit hole searches? The list of lists on Wikipedia is my go-to. I don't know where to start. Missing people, mysteries, historical coincidences, most famous photos of all time, natural disasters, shipwrecks, colonization, empires, conspiracies. I could go on. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.